Hi, I'm Sarah. Welcome to 7th grade science class. In this video, you'll be learning about the water cycle. This will also be compared to facts that you may have learned about the states of matter previously. I want you to list 2 facts about each process of the water cycle as I discuss them, because we'll be using this in tomorrow's activity in class that I will discuss later in this video. The water cycle is what allows us to use water on Earth. It keeps it so we don't use water once it disappears, and it keeps a fairly constant level of water on Earth. The main parts of the water cycle that we will be discussing are evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and collection. There are many parts of the water cycle, and some of them may fall under these categories that we discuss, or there may be some that will be discussed at a higher level of science. However, if you look up the water cycle and you see terms that we haven't discussed, don't worry about those and just focus on the 4 parts that I'll be talking about today. The first step in the water cycle is evaporation. Evaporation happens when water is converted into a gas. The liquid molecules use energy from the sun to break apart, forming much smaller molecules that can easily float into the air. The process of evaporation most commonly refers to water leaving large bodies of water or any body of water. However, water can also be found inside soil and plants. When the water molecules in these sources are converted to a gas, it is called transpiration instead of evaporation. However, these processes happen in a very similar way. The second step is condensation. Water molecules suspended in the air begin to cool down and release the energy that they had been using from the sun. This release of heat is what allows molecules to move further and further up into the air. The water droplets become very close and compact, bonding onto a small grain of dust. Then they release more energy. This process forms clouds. There are various different types of clouds that can be formed, and this is dependent on the amount and density of water vapor present. For example, large amounts of water vapor can form high pillars of clouds that may cause storms due to the release of energy. Think of condensation as the reverse of evaporation. The third step of the water cycle is precipitation. Precipitation is how water comes back down to Earth. The water vapor that was originally condensed loses its bond and falls to the earth. There are various forms of precipitation, with the most common being rain. Precipitation can also be in the form of sleet, hail, or snow. The type of precipitation that happens is dependent on the temperature, the density of the molecules, and the amount of water molecules present. The last step in the water cycle is collection. There are 2 parts to this step. First, we will talk about water sources. Water sources are bodies of water such as rivers, lakes, and oceans. Glaciers are also considered to be a source of water, especially as more are melting due to global warming. There is also a decent amount of water stored underground. Precipitation is able to get to these sources due to runoff, which is the second part of collection. Runoff is any way that precipitation moves across the land. The water may find itself in a body of water, being stored underground, or being used to irrigate crops. Although this is the last step, remember that this is a cycle, and that the water sources will set the stage for evaporation as the cycle continues. In simple terms, evaporation is when water goes into the air, collection is when clouds form, precipitation is when water falls from the sky, and collection is ways that water is found on Earth. Now that you have a greater knowledge of the water cycle, think of how the process can vary in different places. Will evaporation be affected in areas with less sunshine? Or how about precipitation? How would that be in different areas with different temperatures, such as the Arctic versus a rainforest? What do you think is the main source of collection in the area that you live in? How do you think global warming will be affecting the water cycle? Keep these ideas in mind, as tomorrow in class you'll be constructing your own water cycle based on a random location on the world. You will then use these facts that you have given you to describe how each state is affected. Hopefully you now have a better knowledge of the water cycle. Don't forget to bring in your 2 facts on each process tomorrow to class.